What's up, everybody? How are we doing? Baseball is back. Isn't this fantastic? Great news. And how about the Cardinals being the first team to just jump in head first to free agency post-lockout with the signing of Drew VerHagen. So if you're checking Twitter, now everybody, we're all Drew VerHagen experts. So I figured might as well look. We've been missing baseball, but also talking about baseball in a positive light because for the last, 3 months, it's just been about the lockout, a lot of negatives, how to make the game better, how to change the game, banning the shift, this and that. So let's dive into some real baseball talk and let's break down Drew VerHagen. Again, I'm joking because it's not like I'm a Drew VerHagen expert. When I heard the name though, and I saw the signing, so Mark Feinsand on Twitter breaks this. Right-handed pitcher Drew VerHagen has agreed to a 2-year, $5.5 million deal with the Cardinals per source. VerHagen pitched for the Tigers from 2014 to 2019, the Detroit Tigers, that is, and played in the NPB the last 2 years in Japan. He will earn $2.5 million in 2022 and $3 million in 2023, with up to $1 million in performance bonuses each season. So when I heard the name Drew VerHagen, being a fantasy baseball dork that I am, I had heard of the name. And I was thinking back, there was one game I remember where Drew VerHagen was really, really good. And I looked through his game log. It was back in 2019 with the Detroit Tigers that he had a game of 6 innings and 11 strikeouts. So I'm trying to find that right here because again, the last 2 years he pitches in Japan, but here we're going to go to game log 2019 Detroit Tigers. You say Detroit or Detroit? I feel like I kind of go back and forth on that. Yeah, it was August 23rd, 2019, Tigers at the Minnesota Twins. Drew VerHagen got the win, improved to 4-2 on the season, 6 innings with 11 punch outs in that game on 96 pitches. I was looking up a couple of interviews and watching him pitch. And there was a game with the Tigers back in the day where I saw his pitch split was for one particular night. He threw the fastball about 55% of the time. He threw his slider about 33% of the time. And he threw his curveball 13% of the time, if that math adds up. But fastball 55, slider 33, curveball 13. I'm not going to pretend like I know if he's changed his pitch selection, his pitch mix in the last couple of years as he's been playing in Japan. But Drew VerHagen, 6'6", 230 pounds. So can we bring back the Michael Wacha downhill plane talk? We love to talk about downhill plane with Michael Wacha when he was here. 6'6", 230. So he's 31 years old, Drew VerHagen, from Royce City, Texas, a Vandy boy, went to Vanderbilt, 4th round pick of the Tigers in 2012. So does have a decent amount of time in the big leagues. We'll kind of break down what he was doing with the Tigers. And again, as a fantasy baseball dork, I just remember kind of seeing him here and there, and he'd always be available on waivers. And every once in a while you needed that streaming start on a Sunday or a spot start, and he could potentially give you one there. Not a ton of big league starts though, but pitched for the Tigers 2014 through 2019. So 6 years, career record of 10-10, a 5.11 career ERA in the big leagues, 199 pitches, 156 strikeouts. So 8 starts out of 127 games. So he can be a guy, give you a start here and there, also pitch out of the bullpen. And let's see what he did in Japan, because to be honest, that's probably more relevant the last couple of years, even though it's not the exact same competition. So this team, which I'm sure I will mispronounce their name, the Japan Pacific League, it is the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters, a team that I have heard of before, even though clearly I could not pronounce it right there. So let's check his stats for Nippon the last couple of years in Japan. So 2020, Drew VerHagen is 8-6, with a 3.22 ERA. In 2021, he was 5-8 with a 3.80 ERA. So pretty strong ERA both years. Those are his age 29 and 30 seasons. Let's see here. So 111 and 2/3 innings in 2020 and 97 innings in 2021. Strikeout numbers, pretty good. He had 115 strikeouts in 111 and 2/3 innings in 2020. He had 101 strikeouts in 97 innings in 2021. So we're talking a strikeout per inning about, or a little above, for both of those seasons here. So Drew VerHagen, there's your guy. How about the Cardinals being the first team, John Mozeliak, getting on it early here to fill a bullpen need. Now, he has said that Drew VerHagen will have the opportunity to start, but I like this move for a lot of reasons. And I understand Cardinal fans might not be super excited about it, right? But I don't think, and I didn't think the Cardinals were going to go after another big name starter, because when you have Adam Wainwright, Jack Flaherty, Dakota Hudson, Miles Mikolas, and Steven Matz now under contract, all those guys are either very good or they have contracts. And so you're not going to sit one of those guys unless there's an injury. And that's why I didn't think the Cardinals were going to go after a big name starter, because for some of those guys, it's also about the role. Are they going to accept a role where they might go into the bullpen? And that is basically what's going to happen with Drew VerHagen. You'd have to think. The only reason, or the only way somebody really cracks the rotation, the starting rotation for the Cardinals this year, is if there's an injury. Now, of course, there probably will be an injury. There's going to be times where you need a spot start. You have guys like Alex Reyes. You have guys like Jordan Hicks who will be built up. You have the Liberators and Zach Thompsons of the world. But I think a guy like Drew VerHagen, and again, I'm not trying to act like I'm the Drew VerHagen expert, but that type of pitcher makes a ton of sense for this team, because I'm guessing a guy like that who was trying to find his way in the big leagues with the Tigers, he goes to Japan, he figures things out, probably wants to come back to the big leagues, and would be more accepting of a role where he might start, but most likely will be out of the bullpen, where there's a lot of starters where they're not necessarily going to sign up for a role where you're only going to be in the starting rotation if there's an injury. So I think a guy like Drew VerHagen makes a ton of sense. And he also fits in to, I think, the way that bullpens are shifting, changing, transitioning here in modern baseball times, because relievers are throwing more innings than they've ever thrown before. We know that starters are not going as deep. Now, with the DH in the National League, I think your starters can go a little bit deeper. You won't have as many tough double switch situations, decisions to make in a baseball game. But if you have a Cardinal starter who's going 5 innings, or something goes wrong and a guy can't make it out of the 5th, whatever it is, I think having multiple relievers that can throw multiple innings, even if that's 2 innings, guys like this are very, very valuable. So somebody like Drew VerHagen, who we mentioned the innings pitched, 111, whatever it was in 2020, 97, whatever that number was in 2021. Here's a guy who you'd think can give you 100-ish innings, even if that's coming out of the bullpen with some stints there of, let's say, one game he goes 1 2/3. All of a sudden he goes, 2 innings, 2 1/3. You sit him for 2-3 days, or he could be a 1-inning guy. But I do think there's going to be more of a spot for relievers that can throw multiple innings. And so somebody like Drew VerHagen makes a ton of sense, that wants to be in the big leagues, is accepting of that role. He clearly signed very early post-lockout, and the Cardinals were the first team to make a move. So I'm guessing this guy's very happy to be back in the big leagues. And also, this is a very John Mozeliak move, in the sense that the Cardinals have had a lot of success in the Asian markets in terms of Korea and Japan. Just go back the last several years. You can go to Sun Won-Oh. You can go to Miles Mikolas. I know some people might say, okay, Miles Mikolas, that contract right now doesn't look fantastic. But when they got Miles Mikolas, that was an unbelievable deal for what they got him at. KK as well. And even Aaron Brooks more recently here as a guy to battle for a spot with the Cardinals. But Drew VerHagen, who pitched for the Detroit Tigers, goes over to Japan, maybe figured things out. Who knows? I mean, his numbers were pretty good. We all know that's not the same exact quality of baseball as MLB, but pretty good numbers. So maybe he figured something out. We'll come back to the big leagues more confident, ready to go, and can be a real contributor for the Cardinals. But I like this move. I didn't think the Cardinals were going to go big really in any spot post lockout. I think, could you add another reliever? Could it be a Joe Kelly, a Ryan Tepera type? I think you could see that. The Cardinals might be done in terms of the pitching side. You can never have too much pitching. I think another solid reliever would make a lot of sense. On the position player side, I could see somebody like Colin Moran, who can be a backup first baseman, backup third baseman, throw him in there, DH every once in a while, a little platoon with the left-handed hitter. He has power, but also you don't want to necessarily sign a DH and just say, hey, here's your 155 games, here's your 600 plate appearances, because I truly believe the Cardinals would love to see, especially Juan Yepez, get a look. If it's Lars Nootbaar, if you want to kind of rotate that DH, take some guys off their feet, even though you have a really good defense with some of your older players, you don't necessarily want to take Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado out of their defensive positions too often, but also Nolan Gorman. Nolan Gorman, could he be a guy who once he comes up to the big leagues, I don't think he's going to start the year in the big leagues, but he could be a part of that DH rotation as well with the Yepez, with somebody like a Colin Moran, if they go that route. But I just thought it'd be fun to talk about Drew VerHagen. We know he's not a huge, big name, but people are excited about baseball, as they should be with the Cardinals. We're going to get a full 162-game season. I think the Cardinals are going to be very good this year, and I really like this move. It's a really nice, solid depth move. I get it if you think, hey, it's not the sexiest move, but after Steven Matz, I don't think the Cardinals are going to do much. Could they get a Joe Kelly? Sure, and I think Cardinal fans will love that because we love his personality, and he's a really good reliever. But a move like this makes a ton of sense. We were talking about this on the radio today where, I suggested a pitcher like this, not his name. I didn't even think about Drew VerHagen, to be honest with you, but this type of pitcher, because somebody like a Jay Happ, I would think, would want to still be a starter. So you got to grab a guy who is fine with competing for a starting spot, but if he doesn't get that starting spot, he's happy in his role in the bullpen to be a guy who gives you depth. He can be your sixth starter if there's an injury, there's a doubleheader, something crazy happens, but he's also fine accepting that role as a bulk reliever. And I think these bulk reliever types, like a Drew VerHagen, are going to be more and more valuable as we go. I don't think the trend is going to change that much for baseball. I think you're going to see more innings out of your relievers. Sure, you're always going to have your Adam Wainwrights of the world and your Jack Flaherty's, and you're hoping those guys are pushing to go 7 innings most starts. But a lot of times these guys, they're getting them after 5, 6 innings, and these multi-inning relievers are going to be very, very valuable. So thanks for watching here on YouTube. We're going to do a ton of stuff with the Cardinals and Major League Baseball all season long. This channel specifically, we're going to focus just a ton, pretty much primarily on Cardinals baseball, MLB. Also, if you want to check out some of the other channels we're running, Kenny Wallace, former NASCAR driver, we're doing a ton with that channel. It's really growing. Got something like 18,000 subscribers. We have the 590 The Fan St. Louis Blues channel. If you can please go over there and subscribe. And one I just started, I haven't put a ton of content, but Marlow Rental Properties. If you're interested in the real estate game, getting into investment properties, we're going to start building that one up as well, and have a bunch of real estate news and tips and all that. So thanks for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Happy baseball season. Baseball's back. A full 162 games. It's fun. It's fun to talk about actually a signing in free agency. I know Drew VerHagen isn't the biggest name, but it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun to be able to talk about something positive with baseball, putting the lockout behind us, and opening day, April 7th at Busch Stadium. Cannot wait for that. Once again, thanks for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe. And you guys have a good weekend.